Hi guys, so at the moment I am starting to do a keyboard project with another one that is currently in the mail, and I think I should start with my keyboard reviews here. Because over the last year I've acquired several vintage keyboards, and I've learned a lot along the way, so this will be a series showing you a lot of the boards that I like, plus some pros and cons of each. About a year ago, I had the plan to start making reviews, but I was like typing a script and I didn't really like the end result, and I decided to postpone it. So these videos will be unscripted. Um, but yeah, let's get into it, I guess. So yeah, I started taking the keycaps off, which is part of the reason why I decided to start, I guess, today with the keyboard reviews. So this is an Acer 6511 rubber dome keyboard. As you can see, the most obvious thing is its emerald bluish green color, which it's kind of neat, but unfortunately the keycaps have yellowed a decent bit. But the case has not, except like a little bit like on the back edge here, which you don't see, which is kind of nice. This keyboard uses Acer dome width slider switches. They feel actually pretty good. It reminds me of a BTC dome with sliders, which I do have a board with those, but a little bit less snappy and with a much firmer / harder bottom out. When I was typing on this thing, I noticed that the bottom out, it's a little bit too hard or too unmushy, I guess. Like, because I think a comfortable rubber dome board is like, it has some softness to it, but not like too hard and obviously too mushy either. This is actually more on like the too hard kind of side. But if you're the person that likes rounded tactile MX based mechanical switches, these feel pretty similar to that. But also very firm. I'm trying to think. They almost remind me of Ergo Clears in a way, which they're not bad MX switches, but pretty snappy and bottom out. I mean, the sound is okay too. I'll show you one of the keycaps here. These are thin ABS Alps mount. You can see how much these have yellowed with this angle here. With what the community calls Acer printing, which is some unknown printing method. Could be like pad printing or silk screening or something like that. None of the legends have faded, which is pretty good. But as you can see, compared to the outside minus the inside of the keycap, which is what they're supposed to look like, they're pretty yellowed. And it's a pretty interesting color. I kind of like it. So I picked up this board from like $40 off of eBay, which is probably a bit much, I'll be honest. But I bought it mainly for these Alps mount keycaps, which don't know of any other board that comes with like these colored Alps mount keycaps. Because a lot of these boards have Windows keys, and like the modifier keys are like non-standard sizes, and then you have like a really small space bar that doesn't really fit on anything. So it's pretty lucky. I found one of these older Win keyless models that has like a standard Win keyless 101 layout. And I discovered Alps mount sliders, Alps mount keycaps. This will be fun to use on another like clicky Alps board. So that's what I plan to do with this. The biggest downside I have to say with relating to switches and sliders slash keycaps is that when you pull the caps, the sliders also tend to come out with them as well. Something like this, which I'll demonstrate here. Well, able to how I found out how to separate the sliders from the keycaps. Using a keycap hole, you can stick it in the corners there of the slider. And then taking them apart, you just kind of have to sit down, bend over and pry them between your legs or something like that. And then they'll come off pretty good. None of these have broken, but this one, I used a switch puller to pull it off, and that did break part of the corner right there, but it still works fine. But yeah, definitely use a keycap holder to take these apart, kind of anchor them into the corners of the slider there, and just kind of pry them off. But be careful not to lose these, because they could very easily just fly off. So, and by the way, these keyboards, well, not specifically the WinKeyless version, but these 6511 keyboards in general can also come in a white and a black color. And another thing with these keyboards with Windows keys, is that I've seen pictures of them having, the integrated keycap rubber dome mount. That's not with the sliders, and those are pretty much useless, unless if you want an emerald colored keyboard like this. So moving on to the back, you can see the 6511. This is basically an H case, even though this is not specified. Manufactured September 2nd of 1995, which is definitely one of the older ones of these. And there's also an interlap period between these and the 6311, which is the Acer switch version. They made these until like the late 90s or something. Disassembly's pretty easy with screws there. There's also one hidden under here, under the cable gutter here. Speaking of the cable, it's a coiled PS2 cable, so pretty easy to get working on a modern system. Interestingly shaped flip-out feet do their job pretty good. This keyboard has a missing pad right here. But yeah, overall it's really not too bad. The build quality is also pretty okay. It's got a metal backplate with a rubber dome mat, and then a barrel plate with a top plastic case. If I had to guess, the weighting feels a little under, I don't know, a couple pounds, or I don't know if a couple pound and a half, or less than 1 kilo. I don't have a scale to measure things, but I'll probably get that fixed later. It flexes a little bit, but not too bad. It's definitely not the best rubber dome. It's definitely not the worst rubber dome either. And because of the key feel, it's not particularly my favorite, but I can see why some people would like it to mitigate the mushiness there. So, and by the way, it's got the cool old Acer logo to it. And that concludes this review of my Acer 6511-H keyboard review in emerald green color. Alright, see you on the next one.